Hello everyone and welcome to Sports Insider every Thursday at 11:30. That's where we are now. I'm Dan Labbe, he is Chris Fedor, and we have a great show for you today. We'll have Mary Kay Cabot on to preview Browns training camp. Paul Hoynes will join us as well to talk Indians a little later in the show. And as always, scroll down underneath the player, sign in with your account on cleveland.com and ask your questions in the post that you're watching this in. And we'll try to get to them as we go throughout the show. But Chris, let's start with a little training camp talk because it opens on Saturday. We bring in Mary Kay Cabot, our Browns beat writer. Mary Kay, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, Browns training camp, closer and closer. We're about 2 days away. What's kind of the feeling around this team? I know they've all sort of been away for a little while, but kind of your general sense of how people are feeling about the team and how the team is feeling about itself.
Well, I think there's a good energy. I think there's a lot of excitement. There's also a little bit of uncertainty about a few things. Josh Gordon will be showing up and reporting tomorrow, but there's that little bit of a thing hanging over everyone's head about, when will he be leaving the team and how long will he be out. So that lends a little bit of drama and intrigue to camp. And then you, of course, have the whole Johnny-manziel, Brian Hoyer competition. And, as the week has gone along, and I talked to Coach Pettin on Monday, you kind of get the sense that they are really leaning towards Brian Hoyer starting the season. But, you just never really know until camp gets underway.
Mary Kay, when it comes to Josh Gordon, you mentioned that appeal hearing. It's set for August 1st. What do you expect Josh Gordon to say in that hearing, and what do you think he's going to try and pitch for his side of things?
We have no idea. I mean, all I know is that I'm sure that he and his attorneys and his agent will try to make the case that, Josh being away from the team and being banished for a year is not going to be good for him. And look at what happened with Justin Blackmon just last night. Justin Blackmon, he's another phenomenal talent, another great receiver that whenever he's in there, he does extremely, extremely well, yet he cannot keep it together off the field. And the more he's been away from the Jaguars, the harder it has been. And who knows if he'll ever make it back now. So I think there's a lot of fear on the part of people close to Josh that the same kind of thing could happen to him if he is banished for the whole year. Now, if they can work something out where they get where they try to give him a reduced suspension and kind of keep him around the team and give him the support that he needs, maybe he'll offer to go to like an inpatient rehab or something like that. I don't know what will be on the table, but I'm sure some of these things will probably be discussed.
Mary Kay, it was first reported on May 9th that Josh Gordon was facing a ban from the NFL, and then he's had a couple of incidents since then. He had the Memorial Day one, and then, of course, he had July 4th. So the off-the-field troubles haven't gone away for Josh Gordon. Is that anything that can be held against him when he goes into this hearing, or are those things separate?
Technically they're separate, but, I would have to think that if you're in the substance abuse, if you're in the substance abuse program and you are, caught in a car with the odor of marijuana and one of your passengers has it on him and is cited, and then you're getting a DWI, I would have to think that all of those things will be factored in to the discussion on both sides in terms of, what does this individual need? You can't ignore those things. They have to be brought up. So I don't think they're completely separate. I think that in the final analysis that they will be thrown into the hopper.
Mary Kay, if Josh Gordon does in fact get that 1-year ban, do you think he's with the Browns this time next year?
You know what? That's a good question. I think that it would be tough for him to go away from this team for a year, and I think you've seen that with Justin Blackmon. And again, you would think that knowing that these guys have everything at stake, Justin Blackmon had the potential to be a multiple Pro Bowl receiver, and yet he cannot stay away from marijuana, alcohol, and those kind of things. The only way that I'm sure Josh would be able to do it is if he has a good support system, and some good substance abuse counseling and those kind of things. Otherwise, I think it's going to be very, very hard for him.
All right, let's move on to players that we think, or at least know, are going to be playing when the season starts. Terrence West, he lands on the non-football injury list. Of course, he tweeted out that everything was okay. He's expected to report on Friday. What's the latest with Terrence West, and is this something that we should be concerned about?
Well, it's a conditioning test issue, even though he tweeted out that it wasn't. It is a conditioning test thing, and I think it's a situation where perhaps Mike Pettin is kind of setting an example for the rest of the team and saying, you have to come in here and you have to be able to pass your test with flying colors, or there will be consequences. And I kind of understand that. I mean, he has to set the tone. So I don't know if anybody will actually come out on the record and admit these things, but that's basically the story. And Terrence will be back on the field. He's supposed to be back out there on Friday. They have a conditioning session, I think, from like 4 to 5, not open to the public, but he's supposed to be out there for that. So he's not injured, but this was just a matter of not being quite ready for that rookie part of camp.
Speaking of rookies, Justin Gilbert got his contract done. He's going to be in on time. How big was that for him, and how big was that for the Browns, Mary Kay?
Well, it's big. I mean, you never really see holdouts anymore, so I really didn't think that he would do that. But it's good. I mean, he's got to get in here, and he's got to win that starting job. And you know what? If you remember, Joe Hayden did not start right away. You have to be ready to roll at that cornerback position. And Buster Screen has a lot of experience, and I do not think that that's going to be easy. And Mike Pettin will not hesitate to start the best guy at that position. Just because you're picked number 8 overall, if you're not ready to start, you will not be in there. So Justin needs to work hard to win that job, and that's going to be one of the better battles of camp.
Mary Kay, obviously, he's kind of the forgotten man in this draft class. Poor guy, he's a top 10 pick, but he's also in the same round as Johnny-Manziel. So many people talking about Manziel, so many people talking about West. Are the expectations from the Browns that Justin Gilbert does start opposite Joe Hayden, or are the Browns comfortable with Buster Screen?
Well, again, I think that Justin needs to demonstrate in practices and in the preseason games that he's ready to start right away, because you don't want to throw him out there and let him, get to a point where he loses any confidence. So if he's ready, they'll start him. You would think that your number 8 overall pick and, one who was the best cornerback in this draft would be ready to start right away. But again, and it's a different regime, but, Joe Hayden had to wait his turn a little bit. I think the idea is for him to be in there right away, but he's got to earn it for sure.
Mary Kay, when you look at this coaching staff, do you get the sense that they prefer veterans at most positions, or is this a staff that's going to be willing to go with young guys if they earn it?
They prefer whoever is best at the position. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie. It doesn't matter if you're a veteran. It doesn't matter if you're an undrafted free agent or a first-round pick. They will evaluate it on merit and talent and ability, and I really do believe that they will do that. I don't think that they will succumb to any kind of pressure. I know there will be some pressure, perhaps, I'm sure, to start Johnny-Manziel, and he's the number 1 jersey seller and all those kinds of things, but I don't think they'll fall prey to that. I think they will objectively evaluate all these guys on the field. And, like you've got a Petonio, I mean, he'll probably start at the left guard spot, even though he's a rookie. So it's not the fact that they're rookies, it's whether or not they're ready to start.
All right, Mary Kay Cabot joining us, giving us a training camp preview. Things get started Saturday morning in Berea. You're probably not going to be able to get in if you have not registered for those first 3 days. Those tickets, or whatever you want to call them, They are flying off the website of people registering to see Johnny-Manziel and company.
Like call ahead seating.
Yeah, I guess. Thanks for the time, Mary Kay.
Thank you, guys.
All right, so Browns training camp opening Saturday. Of course, Mary Kay Cabot and I have a 4-part preview every day going up. We did the offense yesterday, the defense today, the coaching staff tomorrow, and the quarterbacks on Saturday. You can watch those videos at cleveland.com/Browns. We're going to switch things over, though, to something that you've been all over, Cavaliers coverage. And of course, you can read Chris Fedor's latest at cleveland.com/Cavs. And let's go to the Kevin Love trade rumors. The Cavaliers made some moves. They made a trade with Utah. The thinking is it gives them a little more flexibility, a little more cap room to get a Kevin Love deal done. Is that what it is?
Well, I think that's the thought, yeah. I can't imagine that the Cavs are looking at John Lucas III saying, hey, we got to have you on this roster, or Eric Murphy, you're going to be a big part of our bench, or Malcolm Thomas, who was cut by David Blatt when he played overseas on Blatt's team once before. So, yeah, that's what it is. It kind of reminded me, Dan, of the 3-team trade that the Cavs pulled off a couple of days prior to signing LeBron, when they got rid of Jarrett Jack and Tyler Zeller and Sergei Karasev, and that created the flexibility needed to give LeBron the max deal. This gives them non-guaranteed contracts. That means that they can trade 1, 2, all 3 of these guys to Minnesota in a big package. Minnesota can take that salary. They can just cut those guys, and there won't be any penalty. But they add up to $3.3 million, and that's the thing that the Cavs, I think, are struggling with right now, is finding enough pieces to add up to the money that Kevin Love makes. You got to get close to $16 million. Then if you're talking about J.J. Barea involved in a deal and Kevin Martin in a deal, it's going to be hard for the Cavs to get to that number and not sacrifice some of the players that they want to hang on to. You know, Anderson Varejao, Dan, he makes about $9 million. That would be a good starting point if you're talking about trying to match salary and things like that, but you don't want to get rid of Andy. You want to hang on to Andy. So I think when it's all said and done, Dan, I think you're going to see a third team get in the mix to help the Cavs facilitate this deal.
If they can hold on to Anderson Varejao and acquire Kevin Love, good luck getting a rebound.
Yeah, no kidding,
the Cavaliers.
Right?
That'll just
And
be
LeBron,
ridiculous. Yeah,
LeBron too. He can rebound.
He's become a very good rebounder.
Yup.
So, looking at David Griffin, obviously Chris Grant, Danny Ferry, both got reputations as guys that did not want to lose trades, and almost to the detriment of getting deals done. With David Griffin, are you sensing that same attitude, or is he a little more flexible? And I want this guy, and if I have to maybe, lose the trade now a little bit, I'm willing to do it.
I think what David Griffin does that's different than Chris Grant is he doesn't overvalue his own guys. He doesn't overvalue his assets. I felt like the Cavs had some opportunities to make some trades in the past with Chris Grant. I thought one of them was for James Harden of the Oklahoma City Thunder before he went to Houston. I thought the Cavs had a package that would have gotten that done. I didn't get the sense that Chris Grant wanted to deal Dion Waiters in that deal. I think David Griffin knows the opportunity that's been placed in front of him. I think he knows the expectations of this team. And if it means sacrificing some guys who were thought to be part of the core moving forward, I think he'd be okay with doing that. As long as it's not James, as long as it's not Irving, I think guys are going to be moved to try and get this deal done.
How hesitant is this team, do you think, to trade a guy like Anderson Varejao? Because he's a guy, it was funny, I heard him getting national interviews when LeBron came back, because he is so closely tied to LeBron from their first time around. You never hear Anderson Varejao get interviewed.
Right.
But how hesitant do you think they would be to trade Andy just based on that relationship?
Very. I think the Cavs would be more interested in trading away a guy like Anthony Bennett or maybe even Dion Waiters as opposed to Andy, because relationships are so important to LeBron. The Cavs know that. He has a relationship with Andy on the court and off the court, and Andy's one of the guys with playoff experience, and you can't have a team of youngsters. Even if you go out and get Kevin Love, Dan, he doesn't have playoff experience. He's got Olympic basketball experience, which means that he's performed at the highest level on a big stage, but it's not the playoffs. Andy's been in the playoffs before. He's been in the playoffs with LeBron, so I think they're very hesitant to deal Andy. I don't think he's going to be included in any kind of deal. I think you're talking about Andrew Wiggins, Anthony Bennett, maybe Dion Waiters if you get Philadelphia involved in a 3-team trade. But I think that he's somebody, obviously, in Andy that they want to keep around. And
Andy could become maybe one of, if not the best role player LeBron has played with since he left.
I think the other thing, when it comes to Andy, Dan, if you lose him, who do you have to replace him? you really don't have that answer. Whereas if you trade Andrew Wiggins and hang on to Dion Waiters, you still can kind of replace Andrew Wiggins. If you deal Wiggins and you deal Dion, maybe you get Kevin Martin back to kind of fill that role. If you lose Andy, I just don't know how you replace that kind of production, that kind of energy, and that kind of presence in the paint. You don't have another guy.
Paul Hoynes will be joining us momentarily to talk Indians, but continuing with our Cavaliers talk. Dion Waiters, we talked a little bit about him on Cavs Insider. Mm-hmm. So for folks who missed that, I want to ask you this question again. Dion Waiters, what do you think his ceiling is?
I think he's a sixth man of the year type guy. I think that's his ceiling. I think he's always going to do things that make you scratch your head. I think he's always going to try and take 15 to 20 shots per game. He's somebody who is going to provide instant offense off the bench. He's going to ignite the second unit. I just don't think Dion can ever be one of your big three. And that's kind of what the Cavs are trying to build here. That's what a lot of teams, Dan, around the NBA are trying to build. It started with Boston, with Allen, Garnett, and Pierce, and a lot of people are following along those lines. You want that big three. Miami had their big three. San Antonio has a big three with Parker, Ginobili, and Duncan. The Clippers, they're trying to put together a big three. They've got two with Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. The Cavs want a big three as well. That's why I think the Kevin Love deal is so appealing, because you've got LeBron, you've got Kyrie, you get Kevin Love, there's your third. If Dion Waiters is ever in anybody's big three, I think it's going to be really hard to win a title, because I think he's more suited to coming off the bench and providing offense and not having to worry about many things except for just volume scoring.
Cavaliers fans suddenly all in on the idea of super teams. They love it. More super teams, that's what they want. All right, let's go ahead and turn our attention to the Indians and bring in Paul Hoynes, our Indians beat writer. Hoynesy, thanks for taking the time out.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
We're doing well, and the Indians, look, they couldn't have come out of the All-Star break any better, winning 3 out of 4 in Detroit, and then they traveled to Minnesota, and they dropped 2 out of 3. I mean, this has sort of been the story of this team all season long.
Yeah, I think what you're seeing is the 500 ball club in action. It was really a disappointing series against the Twins. I mean, it was set up for them to take at least 2 out of 3, maybe sweep. The Twins starting pitching was down. Joe Mauer was out of the lineup. The Twins start Chris Johnson, Johan Pino, and Anthony Swarzak, and the Indians win 1 game. It was very, very disappointing, especially coming into this 4-game set with Kansas City.
Hoynesy, the game that they won was when Danny Salazar pitched for the Tribe. He was somebody who at the beginning of the year, obviously, the Indians had high expectations for. Fans were really excited about what he could bring too after the role that he was put in last year at the end of the season, after the spark that he gave to the starting rotation last year. Do you think the Indians saw something from Danny Salazar in that start against the Twins that makes them believe that he can be part of this rotation moving forward, or was that just a one-time thing for him?
No, I think he'll start Sunday, and I think he's got a chance to be in the rotation full time from now on. Well, I guess they'll have to make a move somewhere along the line if Masterson comes back after this his rehab start today. I think Friday. Yeah, he's making another rehab in Columbus. But the thing they liked about Salazar is, with the exception of the second inning when he had one of those high school innings when you walk 3 straight guys and you strike out the side. He commanded the strike zone. He didn't, he still, with the 3 walks, he still threw almost 69% of his pitches for strikes. But, that 1 inning prevented him from going deeper into the game than the 5th inning. But they liked the way he kind of did, through a lot of first pitch strikes. They liked his velocity. He wasn't dancing. He wasn't messing around. He was 95 to 97 from the get-go. And that's what they weren't seeing early in the year from him.
Paul, offensively, the Indians came out of the break. They scored 20 runs in those 3 wins against Detroit. And since then, you see 1, 3. They had that outburst for 8 the other night, and then 1 again. This offense continues to be a mystery. Can they turn things around offensively without adding a bat?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think it's still, when you talk to the Indians, they're going to say, well, we're still, fourth, fifth, or sixth in the league in runs scored. We're still, but I think they miss Michael Bourne. It's obvious that Jason Kipnis isn't really 100%. Swisher is going back and forth. You see a little bit from him, then he regresses. So it would be nice to see them try to go out and get a bat. And I don't know if they're going to do that. But I still think they're probably looking for starting pitching more than anything.
And when you talk about that, obviously the first name that comes to mind, Hoynesy, Dan knows who I'm about to ask you about, David Price. Is that somebody that the Indians could attain?
Well, I think that's still out of their reach. At least that's the impression I get. They're going to have to, that's the guy that's going to cost them the most. He's got a year left, so you're not just renting him. You'd have him through 2015. And, the name that Tampa Bay is going to ask for is Francisco Lindor. And I just don't think the Indians are in position to give him up right now.
Speaking of Lindor, he's in Columbus now. When do you think we'll see him in Cleveland? Could it be before September?
I think so, yes. A lot depends on the performance of the club. If, they go in the tank, if they, lose contact with Detroit, I think you'd see him, and I think you'd see, see them, kind of accelerate just try to move, they try to move Cabrera and, bring Lindor up. But I think if they stay competitive, it's going to be a tough call. Then maybe we don't see Lindor until September. So, that's kind of the gray area they're battling right now.
Hoynesy, you mentioned Asdrubal Cabrera. What's the latest on his status?
Well, he's got the back brace off. He doesn't look. He's not walking around like Frankenstein anymore. He looks a lot more flexible. I would still think he's out for a couple more days. He injured the back on Monday. Didn't play Tuesday or Wednesday. Was moving around much better yesterday. They've got to make a move with McAllister coming up to start Saturday. And that Jose Ramirez, who came up yesterday, the extra infielder, he'll probably go down then. And I would look for maybe Cabrera if he's able to play then. That would, Saturday or Sunday. That would be my timetable. But I'm not sure how Asdrubal's back is feeling right now.
So the Tigers reportedly made a move last night. They bolstered their bullpen with Soria. Is that the kind of move that Detroit needed to make, Hoynesy, in your opinion, to distance themselves from the Indians here in the Central?
Oh my God, yes. Did you see that bullpen over the weekend? That was Detroit. They have like $150 million payroll, and they do this every year, and they can't get a bullpen. If the Indians could switch places with them, the Indians can always have a bullpen. They've got like 12 relievers, but they don't have any offense. All the Tigers do is hit, but they don't have a guy that can at the end of the game. And Al Albuquerque is their savior. Joe Nathan has gone south on them. So they really needed Soria, and and I guess from what I've read, he's not really going to be the closer. They're still going to give the ball to Nathan, but I don't see how long that's going to last with the way he's pitching. That's their Achilles heel. That knocked him out of the postseason last year, and it could do the same thing this year. So, I'm waiting for the Indians to make a counter move.
And I think Phil Koch gets paid by the hour, judging by how he pitches.
That guy.
Jeez, oh man!
I mean, could
it's
you imagine though, being a Tigers fan? Obviously, you're pumped when you see Miggy come up to bat and Victor Martinez, and then you see Phil Koch just running from the bullpen, and you're like, "Oh man, really, really? Al Albuquerque again? Seriously?" Oh.
Hoynesy, I hate to start talking about the wild card in mid-July, but you look at the upcoming schedule for the Indians. They've got the Royals, a series starting today. The Royals are half game back of them in the standings. They've got the Mariners. They're currently in that second wild card spot. Obviously, this team is still trying to chase Detroit and catch Detroit, but in the lens of the wild card, how big are these next few games for the Indians?
Well, these are huge, David. I mean, that great, the way they opened came out of the break, they went 3 out of 4 against Detroit. That puts them in second place. The Royals are still looking up at them. And this is a big series. They've got to play better. I think they've split maybe 10 games, or they're 500 with the Royals right now. Maybe it came up on them, which is a lot better than they played them last year. But the Royals are a team that's in a similar mode as the Indians. They don't score. They're not scoring. They don't show a lot of power, and so they've rebuilt that pitching staff, but they're kind of a questionable offense as well. So I think this is a good time to play them, and it would be nice to take 3 out of 4 here. I don't think that's probably realistic, but at least you have to split with them here. I would imagine it's not, but that would be the best scenario.
Hoynes, Carlos Santana, he's kind of been on a tear here lately. He got off to that slow start. A lot of fans were starting to think, oh boy, what the heck is going on with Carlos Santana? And he's turned it around. Now he's got 15 home runs on the season. What has changed with Santana from what you've seen?
I think his swing, he had so many moving parts in his swing. And he looks like he's a lot more fluid right now. We talked to him after in Minnesota, after he had the big night in Minnesota, the 4-for-5 night, and he said he's not swinging as hard at the ball as he used to. He's just calmed down. He's been doing a lot of work with the hitting coaches, coming in early, and I think when he gets his timing down, he's pretty dangerous. But he's got the leg kick. He's got the kind of the wild, kind of long looping swing when he's not going well, and you're seeing him. Just a lot quieter at the plate, and I don't. He's still working the count. Just before the All-Star break, the last 6-7 games before the break, he was striking out a lot, and that was a concern because I think he leads the American League in walks, but he seems to be back where he's taking pitches and getting in good hitters counts.
All right, Paul Hoynes joining us on Sports Insider. Of course, you will be in beautiful Kansas City covering the Indians' 4-game set out there. You can get all that coverage at cleveland.com/tribe. Thanks for joining us, Hoynesy.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, and that'll do it for another edition of Sports Insider. Our thanks to Mary Kay. Our thanks to Paul Hoynes. For Chris Fedor, I'm Dan Labbe, and we'll see you again next week.